It's time for NEC Women's Basketball on the Run. Hello again, everyone. I'm Ralph Ventre, ready to talk NEC Women's Hoops. We're approaching the midway point of the conference schedule. Let's get right to work and check out where we stand. It's a new week, but the same top story. Robert Morris is rolling along. The preseason favorite and defending champion Colonials are now 8-0 in conference play. The lone remaining unbeaten, they are off to their third best conference start in history. Charlie Buscalia's team set that record last year when it won its first 11 NEC games. Then in 17-18, the Colonials started 9-0. They've experienced some tough moments in games this season, but have held it together and found a way to win each night out. It's a deep rotation, one that went for 34 bench points in its most recent victory. As Robert Morris continues to lead the way, the top four teams in the standings still are the top four teams from the NEC preseason coaches poll. You have St. Francis U, Mount St. Mary's, and of course Sacred Heart. Sacred Heart at 5-3. They won 2 last week. We'll have plenty more on the Pioneers later in the show. And then also in the upper echelon of those standings, it's the Merrimack Warriors. They're right in there. Head coach Monique LeBlanc leading Merrimack in its first Division I season. She picked up a milestone victory against FDU, becoming the winningest coach in program annals. So shout out to the Warriors, having themselves quite the maiden voyage in Northeast Conference play. She gets buckets. That would be Wagner's Amelia Christograva. The Latvian-born forward went off last week. 53 points in 65 minutes of action, 18 for 27 from the field. That's 67%. She was perfect at the charity stripe, made all 16 of her free throw attempts over a 2-game span. Her performance was enough to land her co-player of the week honors in the NEC. Now, Christograva, she poured in 35 points against Central Connecticut last Saturday. That was the highest individual point total in a Northeast Conference contest this season. As far as single-game scoring highs, Christograva is responsible for the top 2 marks in the conference this winter. She put forth a 45-point effort in a win over MAC member St. Peter's back in November. She tipped off the season with 20 at Big Ten member Maryland. Christograva ranking 4th overall amongst Northeast Conference leaders in field goal percentage, shooting better than 49% on the season. She's averaging 15.4 points per game. That's the 4th best average in the Northeast Conference. She's Amelia Christograva. She's the co-NEC Player of the Week, and she gets buckets. Calling the Twitter timeout, this tweet from JMNetter33, also known as Sacred Heart head coach Jessica Minetti. And prior to the January 25th game against FDU, Coach Minetti was honored at center court for her 100th victory. She achieved that earlier this season. The Pioneers proceeded to add 2 more wins to her resume last week, and they've been on quite a run with Minetti at the helm. In fact, Sacred Heart has never had a losing conference record under Jessica Minetti, who took over in 2013. The last 4 seasons, well, 3 of them have been spectacular. 14-4 in the league last year, also a 13-5 and a 16-2. 1 season in there at 9-9, and the Pioneers are back in the mix again this year, 5-3 in the Northeast Conference, top 4 in the standings. Congratulations to Coach Jessica Minetti on her career milestone. That's amazing. And we are doubling down on Sacred Heart in this segment of the show, and that's quite all right because the Pioneers deserve it. They had a 2-win week, and it got even better for the program when news broke on the NEC Hall of Fame's newest members. 3 all-time greats were enshrined into the NEC Hall of Fame this week, one being former Sacred Heart head coach Ed Swanson. Now, I mentioned how the Pioneers had been 500 or better in NEC play every year under Minetti. Well, the same could be said for 14 seasons under Ed Swanson. In fact, the Pioneers never finished lower than 3rd place in the Northeast Conference under Swanson's watch. 190 wins to only 62 losses in league play. Those 190 Northeast Conference victories are still a league record. 280 and 145 overall with the Pioneers. 3 trips to the Big Dance, 4 NEC Coach of the Year awards, and of course, we all remember the great effort that the Pioneers put forth at Ohio State in the 2009 NCAA tournament. A look at Ed Swanson's NEC resume, and all I can say is stats amazing. Congrats, Coach Swanson, the newest NEC Hall of Famer. Now let's kick it out to the corner where Craig D'Amico is waiting to give you some hot takes on NEC women's hoops. Take it away, Craig.
All right, Ralph, thanks so much. Glad to be back for another week here in Craig's Corner on the NEC Women's Basketball on the Run podcast. Let's start things out by taking a look at the most impressive thing. And for me, the most impressive thing this week was the Robert Morris Colonials continuing to be the Robert Morris Colonials. Unlike Kevin McAllister, the Colonials certainly were not lost in New York this past weekend. They swept the NEC's Brooklyn Institutions by identical 70-59 scores to go a perfect 8-0 in conference play this season. Once again, the Colonials are a deep team. They're a balanced team, even more so than when they won the championship a year ago. 7 different players have taken a turn to lead the team in scoring during a game this year. They've dominated the glass the way I dominate potato chips on Super Bowl Sunday, and their scoring defense is still as good as ever. They allow a league best 57.4 points per game, a top 40 mark in the nation. Now, to borrow a file from the Stats Amazing file cabinet, check this out. The Robert Morris Colonials have won 27 straight games in the month of January. That's 8-0 this year, 8-0 last year, 7-0 in 2018, and their last 4 straight games in January of 2017. Since their last January loss, that was back on January the 16th, 2017, against SFU, 70-55. Now, if the Colonials can sweep this upcoming weekend against Central Connecticut and Bryant, both games at home, Robert Morris would be the first team with back-to-back seasons of 10-0 starts since SFU back in 2003-2004. Those were the Beth Swink teams, and in 2004, the Red Flash actually ran the table and won a perfect 18-0. Robert Morris could also potentially be the first to officially secure a 2020 playoff spot if they sweep their games this weekend and if other results go their way. Now, there is no NEC TV game this week, but have no fear. There's still a full slate of NEC women's basketball action free of charge on NEC Front Row, and this is my game to watch. On Saturday, we kick off February with the Bryant Bulldogs traveling to Loretto to meet the St. Francis Red Flash. This is a rematch of last year's quarterfinal playoff won by St. Francis, and also a rematch of the NEC opener, which was won by SFU 63-60. And this is a game that I vividly remember because it was played 11 a.m. on a weekday, and it was a game that was more drawn out than The Irishman. There were more timeouts than a daycare in the final 60 seconds, but it came down to the final dramatic moments when Bryant, down one, forced a turnover, 6 seconds left. They had a shot, but they turned the ball over and fell just short. So now they meet in the rematch, the rubber game, and it's a big game in the NEC standings. SFU has a half-game edge for third place, and they're just one game up in the loss column from the Bryant Bulldogs. That's it for me. Right now, let's send it back to Ralph Ventre in the NEC Front Row Studios, and I'll see you back here, as always, next week.
So now you know Craig's game to watch, and you know all you need to about NEC women's basketball this week. That'll do it for our show. I'm Ralph Ventre. Thank you for watching NEC women's basketball on the run. Until next time.